How's it going, everyone? My name is Derek Afasi. I'm the owner of Afasi Financial Group and RetireSharp.com. Today's topic, I want to discuss with you a TSP full withdrawal and do a thorough review on that and show you guys what typically the problems are when someone's thinking of taking all of their TSP monies out, whether they've hit an attained age or they severed employment, and then what's the solution of kind of looking at it like a perfect puzzle piece and correlating the full withdrawal to individual goals and kind of segmenting them out properly dependent upon your individual situation. So essentially what happens is an individual might be working for a federal agency, and they're working for X amount of years. They hit their 60s and then they say, you know what, I want to retire. I'm basically going to call it quits. So after X amount of years of service, that might determine how much pension income that they're receiving. So that's a set income stream, a guaranteed income source to the federal government of providing them lifetime income in retirement. So let's say if somebody's working and then all of a sudden they retire at age 65 and then they trigger their pension income, well, that's going to be a specific dollar amount. They may or may not be offered an additional Social Security supplement, depending upon which sort of worker they were, how long ago did they set up with the federal agency. But ultimately, you have a secondary income source known as Social Security that might get triggered at a full retirement age around 67, or if they want to take it a little bit earlier, right around 65 as well. So these are two main income sources. Well, this third aspect is something known as a Thrift Savings Plan, which acts like as a 401k, but it's specifically for federal employees. So what was happening with this TSP was an individual was working, they were getting paid specific dollar amount, and the employer, the federal agency, is saying, well, we'll give you a type of savings account, a type of retirement savings account that you could place your dollars into. And so kind of think of that as a bucket, and we're going to link this bucket directly to, different mutual funds available, such as, the C fund or target date fund or something like that, something along those lines that are going to also add additional interest if the stock market is doing well. So what happens is this individual, let's say if they're making $100,000 in a given year and they say, okay, I want to put 5% away for my TSP, well, then we understand that $5,000 is going to go to that contribution. Let's say if the Thrift Savings Plan is giving a match of 5%, that's just a hypothetical example, well, then that says is the $5,000 that the individual put in, the $5,000 that the federal agency put in equals $10,000 of a contribution for that year. So this individual could keep stacking up more and more of those contributions into that bucket, and ultimately that's supposed to grow the the Thrift Savings Plan bucket. The problem that lies is this interest credit. What determines whether this is going to be a positive interest credit or negative interest credit? Is dependent upon what sort of funding options that individual chose that's linked to this bucket. So when the market was doing fantastic in the 90s to 2000, you were seeing, or 1980s through 2000, you were seeing fantastic growth into these thrift savings plans because it was tied to the stock market. Stock market was doing great, and therefore they were adding contributions. There was a match into that bucket, and then you had a positive interest credit that was further compounding that bucket. Well, you also have hiccups in specific years, and you have downward volatility, you have downward market losses, hence 2008, where you had average portfolios that lost from anywhere 30% all the way to 57% with these types of buckets in just 1 year. So it didn't matter how well or how much this person was saving throughout their entire working years. If they're going and let's say they threw $200,000 total into this bucket throughout the course of that time frame, their account grew to $500,000. But then in 2008, there was, a 30%, a 50% drop. They're losing half of that portfolio. They're losing $200,000, $300,000 all in 1 year, which now they're entering the year, $250,000, $300,000. That's a large impact. That's equivalent to some houses that individual just lost, and they had nothing to show for it, is because this interest credit was tied to a risky aspect. It was tied to something that did not have a specific floor behind it, did not have a specific safety net if the market went down. So they're saying, oh, well, the market's going to always do great. The market's always going up. It's going up. Yes, but when you're trying to plan for retirement, you want to do everything possible to make sure that you're eliminating that downward market loss so that you do not fall victim to those baby boomers that got affected in 2008 when they said, "Oh, I'm going to be retiring soon," and then ultimately the stock market destroyed their dreams as that additional retirement supplement, as this additional bucket. So let me clear off the screen real quick. So when we look at that TSP as a bucket and that individual situation, let's say they're 65 and they want to call it quits, they want to retire. Well, we understand at age 65 they're going to be receiving pension income, they're going to be possibly receiving Social Security income, and then you have this thrift savings plan that they could leverage that as an additional income source to suffice whatever their specific expenses are, from your age 65 all the way to the rest of their life, to the day that they pass away. And then also, depend upon their spouse's life as well. Usually individuals want to be covered on joint lives. So there's different ways on how they could leverage this TSP account. And I wanted to talk about the little tidbit regarding that interest credit, because that's so vital to understand whether or not it makes sense to take a full TSP, a full withdrawal, meaning use a form TSP 70, and you rolling those over, rather than take the full withdrawal. When people hear the word withdrawal, they just think, I'm going to take a withdrawal and throw it into my checking account. No, you want to take the full withdrawal and place them into specifically designed IRA contracts that serve a purpose, dependent upon that individual's goal. So what I mean by that is, if we have this individual that is age 65, and let's say that they retire, their pension income is coming to them, and let's say that's $30,000. Their Social Security income, they trigger that early, that's another $30,000. But they have a need of $70,000 of expenses from ages 65 all the way into retirement. Well, then that tells us that they have a gap of what? $10,000. Really simple. Let me clear up the screen. I don't want it to look too messy. And let's say that they have an additional, so I just kind of moved all the variables up top. Let's say in their TSP bucket, this is sitting at another $400,000. So they could go and say, okay, I'm going to just leave my money in the TSP. I'm just going to constantly risk it in those funding options that I have available for myself, and just kind of let it ride and just skim off the top, pull off of those monies. The problem with that is the funding options are very limited, and they're usually very crappy funds. Yes, they're inexpensive, but the reason why they're inexpensive is because they're very crappy, meaning that when the market takes a hit, these accounts usually take a very large hit depending upon what they're invested in. When the market goes up, yes, they're going to be receiving gains, but ultimately when it comes to retirement income or retirement planning, an individual wants to have that security, or majority of individuals want to have that peace of mind that if the market goes down, they're unaffected and their plan is unaffected, or if the market goes up, they want to make sure that they're in the best possible choice available. So rather than the 5 to 12 different funding options that a typical TSP is going to be offering at a given time, they could go and take this TSP monies and roll it over into a specifically designed IRA contract. So if you're looking mainly as a growth strategy, well, all we're doing is taking it, rolling over to an IRA with better options. It's just a slight tweak. Instead of 5 to 12 different funding options, mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds, now we have 3,000 plus different choices, and we could customize it directly to your exact situation. But if we take a step back, we understand that there's a need there of $70,000. These individuals, or this individual, is receiving $60,000 of lifetime income. So we need to at least take care of that need, that gap of $10,000, as quick as possible. So out of this $400,000, maybe that what might suffice that specific goal would be a rollover into IRA number 1, which is set up into a hybrid annuity, an annuity that gives you an income rider, so you still have full control of your monies in case you ever came into an oh my gosh moment. So what this does is, let's say that calculation comes back that you need to put in $100,000 into an IRA hybrid annuity, and then you're going to trigger immediate income from that, and let's say that's going to suffice that $10,000 goal. Well, that'll be the first IRA. The second aspect that I said there's 3 things that every individual wants to make sure that they're covered, for retirement, whether they're currently retired or planning for retirement and how to stay retired forever. The first thing is income sources. They need to have sufficient amount of income, because if not, then they have to go back to work, or they have to significantly reduce their livelihood and really struggle with, deciding whether to have a steak that night or eat tuna fish that night. Something that they have to make these choices. So the very first one is income sources. You want to make sure that the income source is covered, that you're receiving all these little guaranteed lifetime income streams any which way you can. You don't need to maximize it. Like a lot of advisors try to tell somebody, oh, you have 400,000, throw that into an annuity and you'll have all this income and you never have to worry about it. No, you want to customize it exactly to the least amount and only as much as necessary. So in this case, we understand that there's a $10,000 gap. Well, a $100,000 IRA contract that has a lifetime income rider is going to produce us $10,000. And this is just a hypothetical example. The second aspect is emergency funds. We want to make sure if an oh my gosh moment occurs that there's some monies that we could pull from it. The IRA annuity contract, that specific purpose is set up for income. Yes, you could still access your monies. Yes, you could still have certain get out options, but you do not want to commingle those funds. You do not want to try to utilize a income bucket for something that you're going to be pulling monies from at a very sporadic basis. You have to set them up like a specific lane. Each one has their own specific lane. So what this emergency fund will do is, we understand we want to have 6 to 12 months of expenses covered. So maybe we add another $50,000 that's going to be in an IRA money market account. So that takes care of step number 2. And then the third step, which a lot of advisors don't talk about, is inflationary needs. Yes, you might have $70,000 of income needs right now, but out of that $70,000, maybe $50,000 are fixed expenses, $20,000 are inflationary expenses. So that means each year, the cost of goods and services are going to be increasing by roughly anywhere between 2 to 4% is the rule of thumb for inflation. So we need to make sure that we are combating that inflation. We're protecting your specific retirement plan from that inflation. So you could have this segmented into a couple of different IRA contracts. You could have an IRA contract set up specifically for growth to make sure that you're having the highest quality funds at the cheapest possible price, and something that's very liquid, and just kind of set that up into one IRA. You could have an IRA annuity that is set up on like a laddering strategy, so that's going to trigger every couple of years to give you more guaranteed lifetime income. And then you also have an IRA that kind of works more as like a tactical management or a passive management strategy, but it's just going to be overall better bucket. Why would you leave your dollars in the TSP where you're only really susceptible to these 5 to 12, 5 to 15 different funding options that are typically garbage options, as opposed to actually creating a plan and realize that you have that opportunity to have that complete peace of mind, that complete confidence in retirement when you set up this TSP full withdrawal the right way. So it's not a withdrawal. The only thing that's happening when I say full withdrawal is you could take this $400,000 out and segment it out properly. So maybe out of this inflation need, maybe another 100,000 is going into the IRA annuity contract for the inflation annuity contract, and then you have, so that's 250,000. Then you have another 150,000 that's going into a brokerage account with with a Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, or Charles Schwab, et cetera, et cetera. So. And then this is going to hit your 3 different criteria to make sure that you could retire with confidence. So once again, we understand when someone severs employment, they have access to do a full TSP withdrawal. The problems that lie with this is individuals think, first off, that they could just take that money and throw it into their checking account. And the problem with that is you're going to get fully taxed on those monies. And the other problem is they don't have a specific strategy. They just say, oh, I have this bucket of money, 400,000 looks good, or $100,000 looks really nice, and I'll just kind of worry about it as it comes. I'll just kind of skim off the top. And what they do is they leave their money susceptible to fees. They leave their money susceptible to downward market losses. They leave their money susceptible to inflation risk. And they leave their money susceptible to outliving their money, so pulling out too much money too quick, and not having a specific plan in place to give them those income sources properly. So it's kind of a quadruple negative that's going against those counts. So if you think about the TSP as a type of bucket, it's as if you're puncturing a bunch of holes in the bottom of this bucket, and you don't have any sort of safety nets, you don't have any sort of real plan set up. So the solution is to make sure that you're setting up a plan. Typically I guide individuals and I say, make sure your income sources are covered, make sure your emergency funds are covered, make sure your inflationary protection is covered, so that you have as much fund money, as much money left on the sidelines as possible, so that if you want to go and there's a good year, you have some good growth into your account, excellent. You go and take that extra trip to Europe. You go and, you go golfing every day. You have your own golf fund, your own fishing fund, whatever that case may be. But that's ideally retirement, something that you don't have to go to work, but you understand that the income is still coming to you, and you don't have to stress out, watching MSNBC saying, oh my God, what's going on with my money? What's going on with the market? And have that panic, have that worry. And the reason why I talk about that so confidently, because that's majority of the conversations that call into our office is individuals that just say, I don't know, I didn't realize that I don't really have a plan. I saw this video either on YouTube or I listened to a radio show or whatever that case may be. And time again, what we're trying to do is just saying, very slight tweaks could have a very large impact on your specific plan. But with retirement, you only have one chance to get things done correctly. With family members I've had in the past, generations ago, decades ago, they've completely outlived their retirement incomes and they had to go back to work in their 70s. It's just, obviously it happens all over, and it's because individuals are not properly educated on how to plan for these types of benefits and making sure that they're segmenting their dollars properly. So if you found value in this video and you want to talk to a specialist and really look at your situation, and we'll look underneath the hood, ask you some questions, simply call into our 1-800 number. It's 1-800-566-1002. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what you can expect when calling in is you're going to talk to an assistant. You're going to tell them exactly the topic or the video that you saw. And you say, I want to speak to a specialist. So then that assistant's going to go and patch you over to whatever that specialist is available. And they're just going to ask you a question. They're going to ask you a couple of questions. It's going to be very casual conversation, and we're going to try to educate you. So we try to educate you guys through PDFs, through personalized videos, different things to make sure that you're acclimated with the process. There are some times that we say, listen, stay exactly put. There's no reason to change anything. Or there might be some times that we say, yes, you might want to utilize that form TSP 70, make sure that it's spliced up into these 4 different IRA contracts, or 1 IRA, or 2 different IRA contracts, whatever is going to correlate to your exact goal. So this is where I really disagree with a lot of the seminar marketing on either TSP plans or planning in general, is because if you have 50 heads at a seminar and this individual is going off of one strategy, one product line, the odds that all 50 of those individuals have that same need is slim to none. So everything has to be personalized, and this is why we try to make sure we're available to you guys 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau. We are an accredited business through them. And, feel free to give us a call. Once again, I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you can have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.